Okay, this is yours. Hey everybody, we're gonna jump into some Pecha Kuchas. So I have made you guys confused. So I'm going to change the announcement, but it is, you only have to do 15 slides, but if you want to do 20, you can. So, but that being said, we are going to jump in here with Kayla, who is going to be our first presenter. And I'm going to figure out how to show her slideshow from the very beginning. Okay. Do you want me to hit pause or something? Since you have your 20 seconds.
Yeah, I'll just jump into it.
Okay, I go.
So as you guys know, I'm Kayla Walls, and I'm a third-year student majoring in science education at the Ohio State University. My global option capstone project focuses on comparing educational systems and inclusivity across the globe, but particularly in 3 countries on 3 separate continents. These countries I chose to focus on are also at 3 different stages in their development and are countries that I either have previously visited or will visit in the next few weeks. So today we'll be focusing on the educational systems in Ghana, Brazil, and the United States. First, let's talk about Ghana. So as a developing country, Ghana places a high value on educational instruction and has one of the most developed educational systems in sub-Saharan Africa. However, while these numbers are increasing, in 2010, only 49% of boys and 38% of girls attended public school. When comparing these numbers to the adult literacy rates, only 64% of men and 42% of women are literate across the country, not taking into account regional differences. Years of economic decline took a large toll on the Ghanaian educational system, exampled by shortages of books, equipment, and teachers. In 1995, the free and compulsory universal basic education system was introduced to eliminate school fees and increase the demand and accessibility for school. Since the free and compulsory universal basic education system was implemented, there has been short periods of rapid educational growth in the number of students enrolled in the Ghanaian education system. Although Ghana is the leader with the most school children enrolled, sub-Saharan Africa still has about 1/3 of primary school age children out of school, most of whom come from poor backgrounds and are young. To help combat this problem, Ghana's education system has large expectations for itself over the course of the next 5 years, according to its Vision 2020 plan. Under the system, the educational target is free, compulsory, and universal basic education for all children of school-going age of the year 2020. So next, let's talk about Brazil. It's known largely to the world as a developed country, although one would argue that it's still decades behind certain powerhouses such as the United States. So, however, in the past 20 years, Brazil has made massive strides in terms of basic education. According to the PEACE Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, test, Brazil's 52-point increase in math since the year 2000 indicates impressive progress. Although the country's score still trailed the world average, the country's overall score increase between 2000 and 2010 is the 3rd largest on record. Backtracking to 1994, less than 40% of children across the nation completed all of primary school, and only 38% of children enrolled in secondary school. As we fast forward to 2010, almost all students in Brazil are enrolled in primary school. The transformation can be sought back to 3 major reformations: educational finance, equalization, results measurement, and conditional cash transfers to increase school attainment of the poor. The largest increase in enrollment can be credited to the large education finance reform called the Development for Elementary School. It helped implement programs such as the Bolsa Familia Fund, which supports children of low-income families and protects their schooling attainment by paying families the lowest income quintile a monthly sum. So in conclusion, for Brazil, the education landscape is changing for the better, and profound federal reforms in the basic education system over the past 16 years have put into place the institutional framework for a higher performing basic education system. With large jumps in the PISA test in the past few years, Brazil has high hopes for its educational performance in the future. So moving to the United States, as we know, it's a fully developed country. There's 3 factors that drive the U.S. education system, which are universal access to education, local and independent governance, and competition at all levels. There's an overall objective that all children, American children, are able to be educated to the secondary level. However, inconsistencies in testing procedures and refusing to enhance math and science education standards, despite technological advances, severely prohibit the U.S. education system. The outcome is that the U.S. is consistently underperforming other countries in the area of math and science. So one major obstacle that the U.S. education system must overcome is a complete curriculum reform. In comparing the U.S. curriculum to other countries, research concludes that there is a positive relationship between test scores and a system with a centralized curriculum-based exit exam. As a result, the Common Core curriculum has been adopted by 46 of the nation's 50 states and strives to provide a clear understanding of specific outcomes and competencies that students must learn and teachers must teach. Non-school environments also play a large part on the educational system per country, but especially in the United States. Although the school environment makes up a large portion of the performance level of different schools on standardized tests, research concludes that some countries do well on standardized tests, not so much because their educational systems are excellent, but because they have low poverty rates, generous welfare systems, and high-quality early child care, as exemplified by the United States. So in conclusion, the educational systems in Ghana, Brazil, and the United States have certainly improved in recent years, but still have several obstacles to overcome in the future. While they vary with each country's level of development, some of these obstacles still include increasing inclusivity for all students, reforming curriculum, and school building and material improvements. While nobody can say for certain what is next for each of these countries in terms of their education, I foresee nothing but improvement in the future. Ghana will continue to become more inclusive to the students of poor, rural, and less developed areas. Brazil will do the same while capitalizing on its momentum of great STEM education and making education more affordable. And finally, the U.S. will begin reform its curriculum. So the best method is found. Overall, the future of each country's education is great, and I cannot wait to stay tuned and pay special attention as we go.
Wonderful. Well,
That's great.
That was good.
good deal. Awesome. So that is the first one. So you guys can tell how hard it is to time out your slides and everything else. So we're not going to be critical of those types of pieces today. But if, like, for instance, Kayla were to want to maybe use that for her global option forum, I don't know, how many slides did you have? 15. So what I could see you doing is in adding in some additional slides and those places where we paused or went back in order to start the clock on those slides, for instance. So, and that's really all that a Pecha Kucha really is meant to do, is to keep the information moving. And they did some psychological research or something that's out of Japan, where that's sort of like the human attention span, you know, like a goldfish sort of a thing is 3 seconds. Well, humans, actually, they say millennials, which I know you guys are not. They actually say it's like 2 seconds, but anyway, but 20 seconds is a good amount of time for a PowerPoint slide to sort of keep things moving in sort of more of like what's meant to be a quick snippet sort of presentation or talk. So yeah, so that would be something like you could re-record that and make that your final project if you really wanted. Sound good? All right, who wants to go next?
I can.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna get to it. I don't care.
No pressure on.
Oh, no, that's me. Oh, there we go. All right, you're getting fancy, Okay, so what we're gonna do now is, where were those downloads? That's yours. Done with that one, okay. Sit back in here. There we go. Cody McLean. Okay, but we're going to come here first. And we're going to hit share screen. All right, so Cody, tell me when you are ready.
I am ready.
Where's the button? This is, oh, okay. Up here to this old school way. Okay, from the beginning. Go for it.
Hello, my name is Cody McLean, and I'm in 3rd year in agri-science education here at The Ohio State University with hopes of teaching in Ohio high school agri-science education courses. So my project is focusing on how do we globalize the agri-science education classroom and make a positive change throughout the world when connecting students' local knowledge with the global knowledge that we have through different curriculum and competencies. So when I was doing my research project, it came up 3 objectives, or kind of looking at how do we globalize this agri-science classroom, looking at student cultures and what they know and what they learn, then the curriculum and internationalizing that and bringing in multiple perspectives, allowing students to exercise their culture with the curriculum that the teacher provides. The third one is teacher education and experiences and how they gain that global perspective. And teacher can be that catalyst for connecting students with each other and then also internationally. So my first start was looking at what is a global classroom. I think starting with the students, where the students' culture is, what perspectives do they have? And then with global perspectives that you can get from multiple parts of the world and curriculum that the teacher learns themselves through education abroad, or also different lesson plans, different experiences. Global classroom really helps students communicate ideas effectively among diverse groups, helps people have equal voice and perspective, preparing students to compete and also live in a global world and learn more about themselves and others. So my first step was looking at what is culturally responsive teaching, how teachers can teach to help students learn more globally. Research has shown that culturally responsive teaching is an effective method of creating a classroom that acknowledges and infuses students' cultures into the curriculum and classroom environment that helps connect students to the learning process. Blue and Nelson quoted Genevieve, who explains culturally responsive teaching as teaching that builds on students' personal and cultural strengths, their intellectual capabilities, and prior accomplishments. This teaching is a student-centered teaching strategy that uses students' culturally knowledge, background, and experiences to allow learning to be relevant and meaningful. I think this is very important when students are learning more on an international level, and this teaching method allows students to connect their knowledge with the global knowledge. Engaging students, I think culture is more than race. There's multiple aspects to culture that can be integrated into the classroom, such as ethnicity, neighborhoods, education, background, family traditions, and much more. A student's culture constructs their individual characteristics, strengths, values, and beliefs. Bunner, who's one of the researchers, makes a point that different aspects of a student's culture can be positively implemented in their learning process by allowing them to explore the topics that they are learning through their own culture perspective. Teachers can continue to gain and expand cultural proficiency in their classrooms as they engage with their students and their culture. Students can learn more about the world around them by using their own personal culture lens. So putting this into practice, how do we do that as future teachers? Teaching about global food markets, so find an example, looking at different food and where this food comes from. Difference of maybe some students eat more rice versus pasta, and other students eat more pasta versus rice, and looking at where does that come from, and looking at how do you teach these different foods and how it gets to their plate. Integrating multiple aspects of their culture from race and ethnicity and education background into that curriculum. Connecting with student lives, acknowledging and valuing where they come from, their background, making sure that every student is an equal member in the classroom. Building relationships with the students and allowing a place for their voices and their background and their education level. Learning the student's history, that plays an important role in more of a student-centered teaching strategy, and gaining multiple viewpoints and learning from others. The second part of the research project I was looking at is intercultural education. So really embedding cultural experience learning by developing curriculum, but also communication skills within the classroom. So students can learn and practice culture awareness and skill development through a curriculum that a teacher provides. Students can practice their communication skills about global terminology and knowledge. For example, like giving a speech or a presentation on water quality around the world. How does that affect in different countries and their own area that they live in? So developing corporate learning with international students and other educational abroad opportunities. Developing that international perspective overall. Intercultural pedagogy, so really alliance building, so connecting with other cultures and students with diverse backgrounds and building those relationships with other students and learning from them. Empowering school culture and social structure, and the teacher plays an important role in this aspect. Helping students have a voice in their classroom, as I've mentioned before, is very important to developing that pedagogy in the classroom. For example, students can work together to have different experiences and backgrounds, such as agriculture and technology, and what type of agriculture they do versus someone else, and learning from one another and working with groups that have that different experience. Developing that curriculum. There's a research done by Connor, Gates, and Stripling, which is referred in my references, that focuses on the competencies in the Intro to Ag and Natural Resource course taught through agriculture education. They looked at what competencies can also work with global knowledge. For example, the challenges of food distribution, global GMO usage, how free trade agreements impact U.S. agriculture, global role of water use in ag. So looking at all these different areas of agriculture that is also international issues and topics that can be integrated into the curriculum. Really helps develop a thoughtful and dynamic curriculum overall. This curriculum can include experiential learning in ag education, really allowing students to learn that ag knowledge within their local area. This is something that a teacher can really utilize by sitting down, asking, listening from others in that area. Joint research and development, learning from others. A personal experience was doing storytelling in traditional societies in Ghana and learning from the rich history that exists in that local culture, and how we can integrate that into the classroom. So my third part of my research project was training the teacher. Where does the teacher gain these experiences to help them better connect the global perspective to the local perspective? One is the culture of responsive teaching, such as internships or field trips or student teaching that many teachers do. There could be potential different opportunities, such as the urban environment versus the rural environment, different parts of the state that they're not used to, developing that different culture responsive teaching. I think also undergraduate and graduate courses they can take, from culture proficiency to global food issues, educational broad courses. All these courses really providing a global perspective that the teacher can learn from. Another important aspect that I learned about was teacher exchanges. So once a teacher goes abroad or works in different parts of the country, they can learn from other teachers who have different experiences and continue to integrate those experiences in their classroom. For example, in education abroad, in arts and service learning in Ghana, providing opportunities to teach in the classroom, working with different groups of people. Or AgriCorps, where you have an opportunity to teach for a couple of years in a different culture. And most importantly, just interacting with other people in other countries around the world allows you to provide that more of a background that you can integrate into the classroom. Continuing on with training the teacher is learning from the students, taking the opportunity to learn from them and looking at their background and how you connect their experience and their education with a global perspective. Working within the communities and overcoming inequality and culture differences. So implementing a student-centered pedagogy where students learn their own individual areas of interest and connecting their culture with the classroom. And the active listening, so you can learn more about the students so you can develop that student-centered pedagogy. So bringing this all out, wrapping this up in conclusion is, after doing my research, I really found out that these three most important parts of an agri-science education classroom, developing that more of a global classroom, can be from three perspectives. Bringing in a student's culture, developing a curriculum that provides an opportunity to learn more about international education, and lastly, training the teacher. So the teacher getting the education that can be applied to the classroom and connecting all three of these areas of a global agri-science classroom. I believe this is a good example of a three-circle model that can be used to better connect teachers and students internationally and expand their knowledge of the world. Thank you.
Great, good deal. So what's going on right there? So, all right, good deal. So if you were to redo yours, you might need a lot more slides.
Yep, for sure.
Lots of information.
That was a lot of information.
No, it was good. It was good.
So if we want to record these again, how do we go about doing that?
You can do a number of things. Like if you want to, we can reserve this room for you to come in and record that. Or
Okay.
You can record it on your own computer if you have some sort of software where you can do that. I don't know exactly. But yeah, I'm happy to have you reserve this room or another classroom or something.
Okay.
To help you do that. No doubt. Okay, so we are going to not bump this up yet. We're going to go in.
It's like, okay, short period of time.
All right.
Maybe too short.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. We're going to go with Brittany Fisher.
All right, hi guys. As you know, I'm Brittany Fisher. I'm a senior within the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. I'm an animal science major, and then I'm minoring in wildlife, fishery, and forestry. I chose to do my project on human and animal interactions abroad. So my first study abroad trip was over this past winter break. It was with the Human and Animal Interactions study abroad. We were in Spain for 10 days. We visited various cities, saw different production facilities, and it was a study abroad within the animal science department. That's a picture of us at the zoo. My second study abroad trip is going to be to South Africa. It's going to be in May. It's the end of May through the first 2 weeks of June, so it's a 3-week trip. We're going to various facilities. The trip is exotic animal behavior and welfare, and it's also within the animal science department. So when I was selecting my topic, I wanted to kind of connect both study abroad trips. I wanted to relate human and animal interactions and perceptions in different settings. So settings with captive animals like a zoo, or more of a natural setting like a nature preserve or a national park. And I wanted to relate global differences and similarities that I saw as well. So I wanted to use specific examples from both trips and my prerequisite courses. So I'm using the Zoo de Madrid specifically, where we visited in Spain. I have experience working at the Columbus Zoo. We're going to the Kruger National Park when I'm in South Africa, and we're visiting the John Hume Rhino Breeding Center as well. So choosing my topic, I not only wanted to do interactions between humans and animals, but how they can benefit animal species if they're done correctly. So I'm first relating it to my Spain trip. So again, talking about animals in captive facilities, but use of animals in these facilities as educational ambassadors, and then making sure that the treatment of animals is held to a high standard with welfare considered. And then the second part is going to be more, again, with animals in a natural setting. So also offering an educational message when you see those animals, talking about conflicts between humans and animals on a daily basis, talking about population growth in Africa and how that's affecting species, and the species that are facing extinction. So the Zoo Madrid is the first major theme that I'll be talking about, and I found a case study that actually talks about humans' perceptions after they visit the Zoo de Madrid. It talks about 3 different views: anthropocentric, biocentric, and ecocentric. So for zoo, against zoo, and in the middle. Again, talking about cultural differences, and then conservation education, and how they offer those for the public. So then transitioning into wild animals in captivity. So talking about welfare concerns that the public may perceive. Talking about a specific case study where cortisol levels were taken from elephants and rhinos before the zoo was opened, during the opening, and then afterwards. And then also defining animal welfare and what that really means. And then I'll be transitioning into more of the South Africa part of the paper, talking about Kruger, how it's changed since the park was established, how human encroachment is causing wildlife conflict, and seeing animals in a naturalistic state, but realizing that these areas are managed and their population numbers are regulated. And then human and wildlife conflict, again, so talking animals that not necessarily in a natural park setting, but more in like a wilder setting, I guess, not as regulated, and how they're coming and encroaching onto farms with livestock. Talking about people's perceptions of wildlife coming into their areas, so depending on what their land use differences are and their cultural backgrounds, and then the importance of educating people how to coexist with species. Then talking about further endangered species, so as many of you know, rhinos are extremely endangered, and we were visiting the John Hume breeding farm where he actually saws off rhino horn, and he has stockpiled it, where right now it's not legal to sell rhino horn, but
the paper that I found talks about how they could possibly legalize rent trade again. And then how this is going to be important for my further education. So I am going to grad school. I'm starting a research project this summer pertaining to animal welfare and behavior within a captive setting. I will be presenting at the AZA conference in 2019, where I'll be seeing international representatives. My experience when I'm having multicultural interactions is going to translate to working with different types of people on projects as well. Enhancement for my specific field of study, so using my knowledge of animal production systems and translating that into husbandry practices for species of animals that are in captive settings that we don't know that much about. Improvement of zoos globally, and then understanding multicultural differences and relating to the use of animals in various settings. And then lastly, so my career goals do involve working internationally, so this will definitely benefit that. There's lots of conservation concerns, which I've talked about for species in Africa, and cultural differences are considered when creating solutions for coexistence with different species.
Awesome.
Almost 5 minutes each.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So that is sort of the end of the Pecha Kuchas for the people who are here in class today. So for those of you who aren't here, hopefully you guys get a good sense of what sort of the expectations are. These were, you can tell the timing is, a little bit in need of a little bit of practice in terms of like the final thing if you wanted to use a Pecha Kucha, but you don't have to use Pecha Kucha for the final thing. So you could just like take off the timing settings in advance at will for your presentation for the global forum piece that you would be posting. So for that piece, I will open an assignment for you to drop it on here. I think is what I'll do, and then we'll create, like, I'll have a u.osu.edu site that will open up and allow people to see those at a specific, like on I think April 17th or whatever it is. So that's what we'll do in terms of the global forum. Next week, Gifty Egwadimbo was my targeted speaker. She's not available. They're hiring a new vice provost at the university, so she's super busy lately with that process. So I'll be presenting about sort of like what's next in terms of your international life, and trying to do something different than I've already done in a couple of different classes in terms of what's next and continuing on your international work. And then really kind of in the week after that, we're really, really wrapping up with the class. So good fun. It's been fun, I think for me at least, to sort of go through this first process. And yeah, there'll be all sorts of evaluation then after the semester, especially since it's the first time doing this class, and then sort of the hybrid live online sort of thing, making that work. So a little messy, but we're working through it. So all right, questions about anything from you guys?
I do. For this to go on our website, does it have to be a PowerPoint, or could it be in some other format, but the information still being presented?
Yeah, it can go on your ePortfolio as, if you want it to be a recorded movie, if you want it to be an actual PowerPoint, whatever format you want to put it on is fine.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, whatever makes sense. Sometimes if there's a lot of context that you don't get in a PowerPoint if you're not watching somebody present it. Yeah. Yep. Sound good?
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. So we are going to call class for today, and we'll get this posted. Go Bucks!